crisis, but now we're going to go ahead and give the refugees a home. Aren't I a great person? How wonderful am I?
Yeah, and she's taken in dozens, I'm sure she's taken in dozens of all of these, refugees and undocumented immigrants that she's wanting us to take care of. And she uses her personal security, I'm sure, to protect them. But, I want to talk about something else you mentioned, Hillary doubling down last night on these narratives. She also doubled down on some of the lies that she's been telling about the classified documents, whether she sent them or didn't send them, or knowingly sent them or didn't knowingly sent them, if she forgot or didn't remember, who knows?
She did not recall.
She does not recall. She does not know. Who knows what the hell is going on? But she now is being exposed on another lie. This is from the Washington Times. Clinton email compromised in hostile cyber attacks. Remember, last night Hillary Clinton said there was no evidence, no chance, nothing that could even be relevant to her email being hacked by a foreign hacker, but even the Washington Times has to report on it. The FBI's once-secret report on former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's email system reveals that messages sent to aides were compromised by foreign actors. Right. This is the FBI, an official statement. The FBI did find that hostile foreign actors gained access to the personal email accounts of individuals with whom Clinton was in regular contact, and in doing so, obtained emails sent or received by Clinton on her personal account. Bam! Caught her line again.
Right, and we've seen from the emails that WikiLeaks has released that she was concerned that her devices had been hacked. They said don't use anything. They actually told her to turn the system off for a little while, and maybe that would reset it. And we know Guccifer actually released emails from Sidney Blumenthal, and that was how it was first discovered that she had her own private email server. But I love how she points out, Matt, there's no evidence. Of course, anything's possible. I could have been hacked, but there's no evidence. There's also no evidence that Russia hacked into the DNC servers, but they're going to just take that and run with it. There's no evidence of that. But I just love how she's constantly pushing out these conspiracy theories, but whenever it comes back to her, nothing is real. Just like with her earpiece that she was wearing during last night's presidential forum. So obviously this is still at the top of Drudge, our article. Was Hillary wearing an earpiece during last night's presidential forum? And there you can see it's like this Pearl device. And her campaign, they've come out and they've denied it, saying she was wearing that she was not wearing an earpiece. The Clinton spokesman, Nick Merrill, said that what is seen in the photo is merely a reflection of the TV lights or a flash. So nothing else on her face is reflecting the TV lights or the flash. So, maybe she needs to wipe her ear out, like with a cloth.
No, I'll tell you what. If the crew can go back to that last image that James Woods tweeted out, you can actually see that whatever is in her ear is rounded. Look at the light. Okay, they're talking about the reflection. That is clearly a reflection of a bulge that is rounding out from her ear. That is not a typical shape of an ear. I mean, we shouldn't have to get into the science and geometry of an ear and light reflections. She's got an earpiece in, okay? Right. This is ridiculous. Why are we even having this debate?
Right.
Why are you denying this? This is... The sky is green, grass is red. I mean, give me a break.
Right, and there's nothing else on her face that is shiny like this. Absolutely nothing else is reflecting the light like this. Someone tweeted out, they should have just said it was a hearing aid, but they can't do that because there was no hearing aid ever mentioned in her professional report that was put out by her doctors. She doesn't use a hearing aid. Also, from WikiLeaks emails, right there in 2009, Huma Abedin asked her, did you remember to bring your earpiece or should I get it? So obviously she's been using an earpiece, and it's not the first time. People have claimed that she was also using an earpiece during the Benghazi hearing. I can't stand it how it's a constant reflection. Anything that happens, the media, rather than getting to the bottom of it, like with this press conference today, hey, Hillary, there's a lot of reports that you were using an earpiece at the forum last night. Is that true? No, what does the press do when they have their one shining moment to talk to Hillary Clinton? They ask her, do you think that you're being treated unfairly because you're a woman? Or what about the recent polls that show Donald Trump is about 2 points ahead of you? I mean, who cares about the polls? It doesn't matter. They're not, you can't even rely on them. This is the one thing they think that the American people really want to know about. No, we want to know about the freaking earpiece. And are you cheating? Are you that much of a liar that you need help?
Well, we know about the earpiece. She had an earpiece in. That was quite obvious. But this was the most... This is like last night you had the most pathetic excuse for a presidential debate you could ever see. And now today you have the most pathetic excuse for a press conference, I guess, except for maybe, what was that, yesterday or 2 days ago when they're rolling oranges down the plane. I mean, this is all such a pathetic joke. But after she closed out her press conference, she talked for about 6 minutes, and then she took like 4 questions, total softball questions. But then afterwards, a reporter from the Daily Mail asked her about her implying that she had a concussion, implying that she had memory loss. And that's what she reported to the FBI, and she just brushed that question aside. She just said, oh, read the reports. She didn't want to address that
They're
question.
like, we read the reports, Hillary Clinton.
Right, and that's why we're asking you.
You use the excuse of your concussion like 57 times. I do not recall getting the training. I do not recall signing that. I cannot recall what the C means on these emails. I was married to the President of the United States. She was a New York senator and now the Secretary of State, and she doesn't know what a classified marking looks like. And the simple fact is, even I would know if I'm emailing about a drone strike, where it's going to be, who it's going to be against, what time. That's classified. I mean, you don't even have to mark that with a C for me to know that I shouldn't be doing that on an unsecured server. And
we already knew that she sent those emails, and either she didn't recall or didn't know, whatever it was. She sent the emails with the C. And James Comey in July said that it was possible that a hostile actor, a foreign actor, gained access to Clinton's personal email account. But still last night she comes out and said there was no evidence, no reason to think that that happened. So she is just bold-faced lie in front of bold-faced lie. The media tries to cover her up. They have this pathetic excuse for a press conference, first on a plane rolling oranges, and then on a tarmac with about 15 to 20 reporters. And you know how this probably went down, Leanne. You know, Clinton's handlers send a text to their, nice media members that they work with, and they say, hey, you want the Hillary press conference first in a year? Come on out. We'll let you ask a question. And then they get their little hand-chosen puppets out there to ask the questions. And then what do? You get a less than 20-minute press conference where Hillary just gets lobbed softball questions and doesn't have to get into actual issues. And then when she is asked about why she couldn't recall things, she says to read the reports. Well, we did read the reports. That's why we're asking. Right, exactly. And I'm thankful the Daily Mail is out there asking the tough questions. And then the fact that she walks away from the podium, doesn't she understand that now that becomes the story? That when you do get asked these tough questions and you don't have your earpiece in, you can't answer them and you're stumped. And I thought that a lot of the veterans there last night asked her some really good questions, but she didn't get pressed on it any further. She just was able to say, I never sent classified emails, when indeed there is an email where she's telling one of her aides to remove the classified heading so that they can easily fax it over to her. Oh, just remove that heading. They just arbitrarily mark things willy-nilly classified. It's fine. I need you to send that over to me. I mean, totally ridiculous. And this is a woman who's trying to explain why she should be the commander-in-chief when clearly she put the national security of this country at risk. One person, they can't prove it for certain, but the man that was beheaded there in Iran and killed because he was named in one of these emails that came out, and he was actually, they thought he was a spy. So there's one potential victim right there. Well, there's so many, her recklessness, as James Comey called it. There's so many different directions you can take, everything that's happened with Hillary. The deleted emails, the lies about the emails, the media cover-ups, her health. I mean, there's all of this stuff. And it's so obvious to me that even Colin Kaepernick or Colin Kaepernick, Paperneck, whatever you want to call him, even he, in my opinion, his misguided and misinformed protests, even he's saying, how can you vote Hillary? Look at how corrupt this woman is. This woman is a joke. She shouldn't even be qualified to be a candidate for U.S. president. And I think that Americans are waking up to this. And the fake polls the fake, media that they try to skew that Clinton is winning. Even the first question, as you said, was like, oh, the first question at Hillary's press conference today was, oh, the latest polls have you actually up by 2 points on Trump nationally. But with all of Trump's, negativity, shouldn't you run away with it? Run away with it. Donald Trump is the one that is running away with it. They knew what she would ask. They went to her question first. This is such an unbelievable psyop. America is waking up, though, and I think that Trump is going to dominate in a real election. Of course, we don't know if that's possible or not.
Right, because how could an election possibly be rigged? What does that even mean?
What does that even mean? Even though we're bringing in DHS and the UN, I don't know what a rigged election is. I worked for Acorn, who was caught dozens of times rigging elections. What's a rigged election?
Right.
What's a classified email?
Well, and the fact that the people aren't buying it anymore, we're going to get to that here in just a minute about this demon climate that is being created. We're going to get to some video of Julian Assange claiming it's a demon climate being created there to protect Hillary Clinton. All that and more is coming right up. Stick around. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Now, here in a minute, we're going to be getting to this clip from Julian Assange where he is just blaming Clinton and the liberal press for creating this demonic climate and blaming things on Russian agents, all sorts of conspiracy theories. Nobody can believe anything that the media, the establishment media, is pushing it out there. No wonder 94% of the American public do not believe anything the media says. But before we get to that clip, I want to remind you guys this is National Preparedness Month. We are having mega specials at the InfoWars store. Because of this, we're celebrating National Preparedness Month. We're giving you up to 40% off of all of our top-selling preparedness items. These are at InfoWarsStore.com. It's 30 to 40% off of InfoWars Select storable food, 20% off Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, 20% off Alexa Pure air filters, and 20% off Alexa Pure water filters. So many other things there at the InfoWars store. Anything that has to do with preparedness. I mean, with everything that's going on in the world right now, it's more important than ever to start getting prepared for you and your family. I mean, even just you think the flooding that's been happening, or hurricanes, any of these natural disasters that are popping up, this is the time to get prepared. And, you can always take this storable foods camping with you, simple things like that. But this is 40% off on all of our top selling preparedness products. And we're doing that as a huge thank you to everyone out there for supporting us here, supporting this operation. It's more important now than ever as we're seeing the demise of the leftist media to help prop up InfoWars and make sure that we remain the tip of the spear, helping to drive this narrative. And this is just a huge thank you to you all. Help prepare for yourself and your family. That's 30 to 40% off right now while supplies last at InfoWarsStore.com. And now getting to sort of the demise of this leftist media, I mean, right now they're reporting about Arianna Huffington losing her place at the Huffington Post. And she was really created this entire media from nothing. And it became one of the top deals. Everyone knows the Huffington Post. And now it's been bought out and it's gone. And we can talk a little bit about that. It's just pretty evident. People are kind of shooting them own selves in the foot by trying to protect their elite friends. Nobody trusts them anymore.
Well, and I think that this illustrates just the failing nature of the left right now is what Arianna Huffington stepping down from her little baby, the Huffington Post, is. But, she talks about how the Huffington Post's goal was never to generate money. Of course, she's left. She's not a capitalist, probably socialist. But it was chiefly political. And I think what she's kind of tongue-in-cheek, not even realizing that she's admitting, is that they had a political agenda. It's not about humanitarian. It's not about truth-based media. It's not even about capitalism. It's about their political agenda from the left, which has failed, which is why Arianna Huffington stepped down. She said that she wanted to, excuse me, Leanne, but she said she wanted to create a liberal version of the conservative online juggernaut Drudge Report. Now, this is what you're going to get on Huffington Post today. While the Drudge Report is kicking butt, on Huffington Post, be afraid of Donald Trump. Oh, his nightmare presidency. Then they twist. Says he'd fire generals. It's all a twist. It's all a big twist. The internet is having a great morning ripping apart Gary Johnson. You're 2 days late on that. InfoWars beat you on that. Lauer cowers, fails moderator test, going easy on Trump. Are you kidding me? Everybody that watched the debate, Trump keeps saying things that would destroy any other candidate. No, it's Clinton that if Trump did those things would destroy him. I mean, it's just, this is why you failed. This is why the left is failing. You're a bunch of lying frauds. You're a bunch of ignorant fools. Get out of this country.
Yeah, get on out. Well, and just the fact, if you go to any of their articles, at the bottom, there's a disclaimer about how much Trump sucks on every article. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Stick around.
He sucks for them.
Assange clip coming right up. And welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I am Leah McAdoo here, joined by Owen Schroyer. Owen says that he cannot bring us in like Alex Jones. Nobody is going to be able to bring us in and sing that song like Alex. Now, before the break, we were talking about this clip from WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. He wanted to clarify some earlier statements he made. Everyone was like, he called Hillary Clinton a demon. Well, obviously this was prior to her throwing up those little demon babies into her water, but
it's pretty accurate still.
Yeah, still. I mean, what are those demonic lozenges? But now he wants to go ahead and clarify his statement. So do we have that clip ready to go? Let's go.
The Hillary issue for a second. You did refer to or liken her to a demon, which I found amusing. But then you went on to say the American liberal press is falling all over themselves to defend Hillary Clinton, erecting a demon that is going to put nooses around everyone's neck as soon as she wins the election, which is almost certainly what she's going to do, meaning if she wins. I don't think anyone can accurately predict right now which way this election is going to go. That's my own personal opinion. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's a bit taken out of context by critics like the New York Times.
Of course.
I wasn't talking about Hillary Clinton as a person, but rather the climate that they are erecting. It is a demon, that climate. If Hillary Clinton is elected, then they have legitimized a climate of calling opposition leaders Russian agents, calling critical press Russian agents. Her campaign team has done it both for Mr. Trump,
saying Alex has a dark heart,
for the Greens candidate Jill Stein, and for The Intercept, another small investigative publisher in the United States. They are legitimizing that climate. When the New York Times is a kind of standard bearer of the liberal press, says that's an okay thing to do for a ruling party candidate to come out and say that the opposition leaders and the press are foreign agents in order to turn around a domestic scandal, that's a really serious problem.
For the Hillary issue first.
Absolutely. And that, I mean, that was just like so poignant what he's saying, is that they're creating this climate that it's okay to just blame any scandal that happens on Russian agents, on this boogeyman, not looking at the fact that what was leaked in that DNC hack, which probably wasn't Russia. They have no evidence of it, but they want to just immediately blame it on Russia. Yeah, and Seth Rich and all that. They want to blame it on these Russian agents rather than looking at what was actually revealed. The fact that this entire election has been rigged. They stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders. They don't want anyone to look at that. And here he's saying that the press is basically digging their own grave.
Well, and Assange really is alluding to what's happening right now as far as foreign policy is being intermingled, which is where they want to, start greasing the skids for war with Russia. I mean, that's all this is. Any chance they get to grease the skids and demonize Russia, they're going to do it. And even though Assange, I think, makes great points and, he's got to take the high road here, I'll go ahead and speak out for what Assange. Hillary Clinton is a demon, okay? That is a demon creature. And I mean demon. I don't mean what climate or anything. I mean demon.
Yeah, she is a demon. And I love how she grabs her, empty cavity where her heart should be when she was talking about
her fake heart, probably some metal pig heart or something.
Dark heart. Would someone, I don't know, why don't you ask Madeleine Albright what kind of a dark heart someone would have to talk about, 500,000 dead Iraqi children was worth it. And she continues to tweet out how proud she is that Madeleine Albright is backing her. She backs her for president. Yeah, there's a voice that I want.
It's just hilarious to me. I mean, this is a woman who can be tied to deaths in Libya, deaths in, all kinds of death.
Iraq.
I mean, you talk about this corrupt government, corrupt wars. She can be tied to every single one of them. How is she demonizing anybody for having a black heart? You're the one with the black heart, you demon.
Look up Clinton body count. Donald Trump doesn't have a Trump body count.
Yeah.
Right, stick around. We're going to have Anthony Gucciardi joining us in the next segment.
If you are receiving this transmission, as the liners always say, you have chosen to engage in meaningful content. You have chosen to consciously listen to a program that's going to talk about real things and important things and not deflect and not talk about, it's clear that Hillary's in perfect health. She's spitting out green goo into cups and everything's totally fine. Everything is, in fact, amazing. Instead, we're going to talk about some real news, lots of news, jam-packed news, and we're going to keep Leanne and Owen to talk a little bit about it as well for this segment, including this piece that I just printed out and saw online. It's one of the top posts on Reddit. It's super bizarre. It almost seems like a satire piece or something. Bank of America says there's a 20 to 50% chance we're inside the Matrix and reality is just an artificial intelligence simulation. And they actually put this report out to investors, according to Business Insider, and said there is up to a 50% chance. They even have a graphic that everything is the Matrix, that we're all living in this artificial spectrum, and we should basically plan accordingly. So we're going to talk about that. Talk about in Japan how 541,000 young kids are recluse because they can't even enter society. They hate what society has become and how we're kind of going down that path in many ways. And a lot more things, you know, Hillary health, North Korea bans sarcasm, lots of stuff. Anyway, but first and foremost, I wanted to talk to you guys about the FDA ban on antibacterial soap. And here's why it's interesting, okay? It's not just, oh, like antibacterial soap, okay, no one really cares about that. It's way, way deeper than that. Last week, the FDA announced they were going to ban certain antibacterials in soap, which is good because triclosan, which is equivalent to some components in Agent Orange, is actually bad, right? But why would they do that now, decades after we've been talking about it, decades after people have come on this program and said, hey, this stuff is actually bad for you? Is it because they just had a change of heart and they decided, you know what, let's revisit that antibacterial stuff?
That is bad.
Right? I'm sure that's part of it, but guess what? Look at these stories. Superbugs are such a big issue. I mean, it is humanity-ending issue. And more we see that superbugs are basically getting out and killing people. And I know people that own emergency centers and hospitals, and Dr. Group called me and said he's been getting a lot of doctors saying this too. So I just did a quick search and looked at some of this stuff. Look at all the news about superbugs that no one's talking about. Researchers find first U.S. bacteria with worrisome superbug genes, and I mean, that's been found before, but antibiotic-resistant E. coli found in a quarter of chicken products sold at major supermarkets. Vice asks, is supermarket chicken going to kill us all? Rare superbug outbreak in Wisconsin is blamed for 18 deaths. And how this happens is not only is 70% of antibiotics just dumped into livestock, right, so you're eating it in small micro amounts and it's mutating things, but antibacterial soap also. People are just rubbing that all over the body. How many times have you seen people with hand sanitizer just like rubbing their arms and stuff? I mean, it's like spreading superbugs. So that's why they're also doing that, is because they don't want to say, well, we did it because superbugs could wipe out humanity and, you know, it's an issue. They're just like, well, it could be dangerous. You know, what do you guys think about that?
Well, it's like, what are they going to do about all the antibiotics that they're pumping in all of the meat, and that they have to do that because they live in such disgusting conditions that they put our food supply in, that they could wipe out the population there. So they're sanitizing our food before it even hits our bodies in that sense. I mean, what are they going to do about that? Or is it's just the big move to push everyone into becoming vegetarians?
Well, and it's kind of like the out of sight, out of mind phenomenon when you talk about, you know, rubbing chemical agents or soap and then washing them down the drain, or even throwing a battery away that ends up eroding that shouldn't have been thrown away, you know, not throwing away a battery correctly. So it's this kind of like out of sight, out of mind thing that, oh, well, you know, the chemical runoff isn't in my house or it's not in, you know, my county or whatever. well, we're still in a self-contained environment, essentially, here. It's still on planet Earth. I mean, these chemicals are going somewhere, and most of the time they end up in our water, and that's why people are filtering their water if they have a brain in their head, because that's where most of this stuff ends up, Anthony, is right in our water. But they're not going to take the blame. You know, the people who put these chemicals in these products that we use every day, they're not going to take the blame when this stuff starts affecting all of us, when this stuff starts leaking into the water supply. No. They're not going to take the blame. In fact, the mainstream news is not even going to bring it up as an issue. It's just out of sight, out of mind.
Well, you know, it's not a sexy issue, right? So we could talk about, and we are going to talk about other news that's, you know, more like, oh my God, like headline crazy. But it's not a sexy issue to talk about superbugs. It's not a sexy issue to talk about antibacterials. But there is that degree of faith, though, because the listeners of this show and this audience are actually super intelligent and actually look at things that are significant, you know. Think about why we've managed to actually change things. Think about why we've managed to push forward in new ways and develop basically news hijacking systems. It's because people listen to shows like this, the listeners right now, actually care. They actually care about meaningful content. They actually care about things that are important. They actually care about something that threatens humanity, like superbugs, right? So it's not just fluff. That's exactly, so what Owen's saying, I agree, because the media instead would just say, oh, wow, there was 18 people that died in a superbug. It's scary from a superbug. Like, you better watch out or whatever. But they don't go the extra step in saying, wow, is it because there's so many antibiotics in the food supply? Is it because it's in the water supply? Is it because of all this? They don't go that extra step because they don't think you're smart enough.
Well, and they know.
do not think you have the ability to transmogrify all that information and make a conscious decision. They just want to give you the little tidbit, like the little M&M, like, here you go.
Well, yeah, talking about wiping out.
I believe you do have that degree of intelligence, and I know you do.
Absolutely. And, you know, talking about that topic not being so sexy, well, the news is always talking anything that's about wiping out life on the planet as we know it, or World War III. They always want to talk about that. But with this particular topic that could actually wipe out life on the planet, but they're going to have to change so many structures, so many systems in order to do it. So they were not even going to tell people about it. So you have to take that step yourself.
And I think that this is something that's traceable. I think that these are companies that now are trying to kind of cover their tracks or you know, get out early. So when real news organizations like Infowars.com and all these other ones that are springing up, a lot of people are really just even focused in on like the health aspects, nutritional aspects, and what's going on with, you know, our biology and stuff like that. They're going to start seeing what's going on. These are traceable measurements we can make where we're saying, wow, look at these chemicals that are popping up in the water. Wow, look at these chemicals that are popping up in the food. They're not naturally supposed to be there. How are they getting there? Oh, okay, now we can trace it back. Oh, this is part of a Agent Orange experience. Oh, Monsanto. Of course, most of this will probably trace back to Monsanto when you actually start to do this. But I think this is them starting to feel the heat. They know, Anthony, that people like you and Infowars and other people are going to start reporting on this. And so they know that if this reaches a mainstream narrative, what are they going to do? They don't want to be caught with their tail between their legs when cancer rates go from, you know, 1,000% increase in 20 years to a 20,000% increase in the next 20 years.
Right.
You know, it's a matter of just saying, and we're about to talk about this Zika story too. It's a matter of just saying, look at the magnifying lens that the media has, right? It has this big magnifying lens. And you think about maybe 50 years ago, it was the only big magnifying lens. And there's like these people just carrying it around, right? And then there's the whole country just standing there, and they can just put their big magnifying lens on something, and everyone just sees that, right? So maybe 50, 60 years ago. So they would just say, well, look at this over here. This is most important. Don't worry about all that other stuff, okay? Don't worry about that. That's non-existent. Just look
non-existent,
over here,
exactly.
Right? But now we have a big magnifying glass, and we're like, well, look at this. Look over here. And people can actually choose what they're looking at.
Right.
But the media still desperately, and when I said the media, many of the mainstream media organizations that have lost all credibility and 94% distrust them, have their little magnifying glass, and they're like, look, Zika's bad, though, and look at the freak out over that. So,
and then we're like, look who owns the patent on Zika, and they're like, no, don't look at that.
Yeah, well, these are Rockefeller and big pharma-funded news agencies, so what do you expect?
Well, you know, beyond all that, though, right? So beyond all the whole, like, the dark loomingness, all we have to do is look at the top. Look at the cream on top. Look at this craziness. Aerial spraying for Zika stirs controversy in Miami Beach. They're spraying Miami Beach. I don't know if anyone, if you guys have ever been to Miami Beach. Imagine just dousing Miami Beach in insecticide. That's what they're doing. Yeah. Over a 1.5 square mile infection zone. Like, they're just like, oh, Zika. Everyone's freaking out about Zika. If you go to Google, it's always the top trend, like, do I have Zika? And it's all these people not anywhere near the Zika virus thinking they have Zika. And a friend of mine who runs urgent care centers, hospitals and stuff, he's like, no, everyone's coming in saying, I have Zika. I'm going to die. Like, what am I going to do? And guess what? It's because the mainstream media saying, Zika, it's so scary. Like, you watch the nightly news and they say, Zika virus, 4 new patients found with minor symptoms. You know, like, they freak out about it. But then when we talk about real stuff, because this audience actually cares about the real stuff and pushes it out, and it's like, hey, let's make this the top trend. And you see on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever, it's all the top trends are generally like the important stuff we push. But still the media will take that magnifying lens and say, well, don't worry about that. That doesn't matter. Well, Zika is scary. Well, and then the government sprays the beaches because it's the worst thing ever. And the pesticide that they're spraying is more damaging, more harmful to pregnant women developing fetuses than the Zika virus that they're probably not even going to get. And so all those pesticides and poison are now getting into the water, running off into the groundwater. I mean, it is absolute insanity. Well, I don't know if either of you guys saw this, but the day after they sprayed all the Zika aerosols, or it was either the day after or the day of, thousands of bees died immediately. It was like the bee-pocalypse. So think about it. If they don't want to eliminate, you know, humanity just by killing us all, well, then we'll just kill all the bees, and then humanity will eventually die off because that's how the food chain works. President Camacho from Idiocracy, it's like, we have a serious problem, sir. What do we do? He's like, well, just spray all the beaches and just kill all the bees. Spray them all. Just unload. Just annihilate everything. All right, guys, we'll be back with more news. Leanne and Owen, thank you, guys. Stay tuned, 4th hour. Lots more coming up. All right, welcome back. It is the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show. I'm Anthony Gucciardi, and what we're going to do is we've got so many special reports that Alex didn't get a chance to play, and I know he did want to play them because they are good. So we're going to go to this report by John Bown about Hillary and what's going on with that, and then we'll come back and more news, including, are we living in the Matrix? Bank of America says probably. Crazy stuff.
Hello, Neil. Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix.
Just how deep does the matrix of the programming of the general public go? Would it surprise you to discover just how subtle and obvious the programming truly is? Back in 2011, InfoWars spoke with Cuban-born journalist Alex Abella about the RAND Corporation's infiltration of the American psyche.
What RAND actually did during the 1950s is that they came up with this particular way of looking at the world that changed everything, that changed the world we live in, that changed how we think, how we talk, the schools we send our kids to, how we pay our taxes, the planes we fly in. They've changed the whole world. They developed something called rational choice theory that after it came up and after it was developed and expanded, it turned us from citizens into consumers. And instead of having rights and responsibilities, we became consumers with choices in a world where what really counts is what they call the consumer sovereignty, or the sovereignty of the consumer, where what counts is not what we do or who we believe in or what God we pray to, but how much money we're going to spend and what's in it for me.
Choice. The problem is choice.
The rational choice theory has gradually been inundated in American culture for at the very least 5 generations.
The Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
The RAND Corporation is at the heart of the New World Order. It's part of that inner coterie, or almost a group of ring wraith organizations that serve this dark system. And the RAND Corporation, literally, if you research the white papers they put out that are public, has set the policy that we are now living under in this country, and they have the nerve to locate themselves and get the street named 1776.
Simply put, It's far easier to control a nation of mindless consumers than free-thinking individuals with strong beliefs. Globalist think tanks, the RAND Corporation, the CFR, hand in hand with the CIA and the Pentagon, have developed and customized unyielding psyops on the American people, bringing us to the state of dysfunction we all experience today. After leaving the Washington Post in 1977, Carl Bernstein wrote for Rolling Stone. In 1953, Joseph Alsop, then one of America's leading syndicated columnists, went to the Philippines to cover an election. He did not go because he was asked to do so by his syndicate. He did not go because he was asked to do so by the newspapers that printed his column. He went at the request of the CIA. Alsop is one of more than 400 American journalists who in the past 25 years have secretly carried out assignments for the Central Intelligence Agency, according to documents on file at CIA headquarters. Fast forward to the present day, and those same meddling internal forces have grown a mutated psyop into monstrous proportions in the form of Black Lives Matter. The Washington Times recently revealed that the Ford Foundation and Borealis Philanthropy recently announced the formation of the Black-Led Movement Fund, BLMF, a 6-year pooled donor campaign aimed at raising $100 million for the Movement for Black Lives Coalition. That funding comes in addition to more than $33 million in grants to the Black Lives Matter movement from top Democratic Party donor George Soros through his Open Society foundations, as well as grant making from the Center for American Progress.
Well, yes. I mean, there has been always a link between think tanks and the big powerful economic interests. Specifically, in the case of RAND, there has been a link between RAND and the Ford Foundation.
The Ford Foundation has been providing cover as a CIA funding arm since the Cold War, and Borealis Philanthropy has been expanding funding to bring in an invasion of illegal immigrants into the United States, raising over $90 million in 8 years. America is being eaten away from the inside out, and it's getting easier and easier as more and more Americans isolate themselves from their fellow citizens and their inherited responsibility to be mindful of the overwhelming evidence that we are being smothered under a blanket of globalism. John Bound for Infowars.com.
You know, whether you decide to or not consciously, every single day you are choosing a so-called side, right? It's not that black and white. But with everything you do, whether it's you wake up and you brush your teeth and you go to Starbucks, you buy a Starbucks coffee, you go to the gas station, you're making a choice to support something, right? So you're buying that Starbucks coffee, you're buying food from a certain store, like a certain outlet, you're working for a certain corporation, you're putting your time, you're putting your energy into something, but also the content you consume. So if you go on YouTube, for example, you're giving views to things. It's kind of trivial and small in a way, but guess what? It actually matters. You're choosing to consume something. So just as you would like drink a water, you're consuming this content right now. You're consuming that. So when you go on YouTube and you're consuming worthless content, which we all do sometimes, but I mean, you're supporting organizations you don't believe in, you're supporting content you don't believe in, that also is a choice. I'm not saying everyone's bad if they do that, right? But by choosing something meaningful, even if you don't agree with every single thing about it, right, you are actually making a difference in supporting something, whether it is just giving it views or supporting it or spreading the word or whatever. And also, when you make a financial purchase, you make voting with your dollar is a very real thing. I mean, that's how companies are started. So why not support a good organization you actually believe in that's doing something that is on the front lines, willing to sacrifice, willing to fund itself, willing to take heat over your Starbucks coffee. So I bring this up as the preparedness mega specials, Infowars, store.com, InfowarsLife.com. This is a good time to get a lot off on storable food, which is something that everyone should have anyway. I have a ton of it at my house. There's a ton of it at the office. Alex actually bought it for his whole crew. 20% off Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, which is the best flagship iodine from Infowars Life. I mean, the benefits are numerous. You're probably already aware. Check it out, InfowarsLife.com, 20% off. 20% off Lexapure air filters, 20% off the water filters, and there's more specials. I mean, you can find something. Right? you can find something for 20% off. It's a decent, good special that is going to actually empower you as opposed to disempowering you. Because when you support something like Starbucks, what do they give you? What value do they give you? They get to open up more chains. They get to support things you probably don't believe in. But the opposite is true at InfoWarsStore.com, up to 40% off. Support something you actually believe in. Now, let's talk about this. This is quite an interesting story. And it makes me feel like I am in the Matrix. Bank of America, there's a 20 to 50% chance we're inside the Matrix and reality is just a simulation. It's always weird when a group like Bank of America says this. This is from Business Insider. In a note to clients out Tuesday, Bank of America Merrill Lynch said there's a 20 to 50% chance that we're living in the Matrix, meaning that the world we experience as, quote, real is actually just a simulation. The firm cites comments from Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Nick Bostrom's seminal paper on the issue as the basis for its 20 to 50% view. Now, first of all, that's pretty funny, right? How could you possibly quantify a percentage? I guess you could look at the probable advancements in technology and artificial intelligence and say, well, you know, down the road we could get there. But I'd like to see how they came up. Unless this is all a big joke somehow, by the way, which I'm totally open to, but it doesn't appear to be. 50% chance we're in a matrix. That sounds like an interesting quantification. They say many scientists, philosophers, and business leaders believe that there is a 20 to 50% probability that humans are already living in a computer-simulated virtual world. In April 2016, researchers gathered at the American Museum of Natural History to debate this notion. The argument is that we are already approaching photorealistic 3D simulations that millions of people can simultaneously participate in. Says that it is conceivable with the advancements in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and computing power, members of future civilizations could have decided to run a simulation of their ancestors. Says that notably highlights their probable scenarios for the human race, which are extinction before reaching a post-human stage, reaching a post-human existence but not simulating, and that we're already in the matrix already. So, in other words, it even has a nice little graph here. A nice little graph about the probability of our existence inside the matrix. Well, you know, I think we are in a matrix. I don't know if I'm not sure it's a virtual reality simulation, but I feel like I'm in a matrix most days because sanity has turned into insanity, right? I feel like instead of a virtual reality matrix, and again, I don't know where they get these percentages from, like 50% chance everything is not real. I think there could be an ethereal type matrix, like multiple dimension systems and everything like that, which is not the topic we're going to discuss right now, which could then be perceived as like a virtual reality in some ways through scientific exploration. But anyway, instead, I would argue that we are in a micro matrix because every single day when I wake up and I look at the news, I see complete insanity. As an example, I get some of my news from Reddit, which is a hugely popular website. And if I go to world news versus U.S. news, right? So you click world news, and it's oftentimes like big events, like weird stuff like this, like North Korea bans sarcasm because Kim Jong-un fears people only agree with him ironically, like crazy stuff, or like, you know, World War III type scenarios, troops moving on the Ukrainian border, whatever. But when I click U.S. news, maybe we could even go to Reddit. It just says news up there. When I click news, it's almost like I went from real news that actually has some significance in my life. If we click news up at the top, it's always like, UMass students, Harambe jokes are an attack on African Americans, Black Lives Matter law used, innocent, like all this stuff about race and like just division. It's just a joke, man. It's just a joke. It's absurd. If we look at the real news, world news, it's all stuff about real issues, stuff that actually matters. Courts deciding things, precedents. I've got this piece here about stingray use. I've got stuff about Hillary Clinton, you know, the Japanese people in their house that are reclusive because their society's collapsing. But then the U.S. news is just, this race is mad. This race is mad. Microaggressions here. Someone's upset, and it's your fault. Okay? It's all just shaming you. And the worst thing in the world is to feel shame all the time. And I feel like it's 100% true we're in a matrix. We're in a matrix of artificial reality pushed on us. where we're not allowed to talk about the things that matter because instead we must be pushed into a micro prison, into a little playpen. And that's what the U.S. news has come. That is why more people than ever are like accepting foreign news sources. Think about that 20, 30 years ago. Who would go to Russian television? Who would ever say, well, you know, I'm going to go watch Russian state-sponsored television now for my news since I believe it's more credible? What? Absolutely not. What a pathetic state we are in which a decent percentage and number of people say, I'm going to watch Russian state-sponsored news because I don't trust the U.S. media. And it's because it's turned into the way I would describe U.S. media and the people propagating it, the people that buy into it, is everyone is in a sumo wrestler suit with pads and like big like pool tubes or something, and they're all just attacking each other. And like it's a safe space though, like little toddlers in a pen, and they're all just crying at each other and like, oh my God. And no one is allowed to come in and say, hey, well, you know, this is all just a weird staged little like playpen thing. What are you guys doing? They're just like, oh, he hurt me. He hurt my feelings. I got upset at that. And the only thing that's going to lead us to is implosion. And I don't mean implosion on we're going to be starving on the streets. I mean intellectual, cultural, society implosion in which it will invert in a very bad way. And I've been saying that for a very long time in the sense that the focus on not offending everyone, like New York Times wrote an article that was actually pretty good about the new indoctrination of students in college, like introductory events, like assemblies or whatever. And they were telling them, like, remember, if you say you guys, that could be offensive. We know about that political correctness stuff, right? So what's going to happen, though, is that's going to create actual hate and racism because, as an example, yesterday night, I get a phone call from someone. It's a friend of mine. And they said, you know, Anthony, I like to talk to you because I feel like I can say things to you and you won't get upset at me. I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, you know, I talk to a bunch of people every single day. It's part of my job. But if I say anything that offends them at all, when it's not offensive, and I promise I'm not trying to be mean, I don't know what to do, they get so upset. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, well, you know, this woman came in and I didn't mean to say it. I didn't mean to say it. She just, you know, she was of a certain ethnicity. I just said, oh, you know, that black woman, I didn't mean it racist, and everyone got mad. I was like, well, you were just identifying the person, to be clear, because there was a white woman and a black woman in the waiting room. So you just said black woman, right? And she goes, yeah, and I didn't mean anything by it. I'm serious. I was like, what? What? I mean, clearly you're not being racist, clearly. But what happens is no one actually believes, besides a small percentage of people, that's racist. No one actually believes that those microaggressions are really evil, right? So what happens is it's an inversion. It's almost like when you law of gravity, it applies to society. When you jump up really high on a trampoline, you're going to fall back down. And if the trampoline's not there and it's a bunch of cement, you're going to get hurt. Okay? So what happens is we obsess over this stuff. We obsess over it. We're just like, oh my God, stop offending people. You're not allowed to do this. And everyone, besides a small majority, actually a minority, doesn't believe it. So they start rebounding, and it actually creates real racism. It actually creates real hate because people reject that whole ideology and they go extreme farther. It's already been seen in Europe. There's actually a bunch of real hate groups rising in popularity because of the fact that everyone is just saying, oh, the refugees are awesome, we love them, which isn't good, but hating them is not good either. There is an actual reality zone in between those two where you don't have to hate, but you don't also have to let everybody walk all over you. But the problem is that is reason. And reaching reason is very, very challenging in a frenzied, insane world. So I, in fact, would argue that we are living in a form of the Matrix. Maybe Bank of America is right. Yeah, the coddling of the American mind by the Atlantic, that's a good one, too. Basically, kids are just brought up and told that they need to get offended by everything. And they need to get upset. And don't worry about real stuff. And I have an article here, actually, about real stuff that I like to talk. I like to talk about real things. I'm going to find it. It's about child marriage in Nepal. And here it is. Girls face shattered dreams as Nepal fails to curb child marriage. Now, let me tell you something. I am unequivocally 100% for the empowerment of women, for the empowerment of men, for the empowerment of humanity. There's no debate, no question about that. I say that 100% real, and I want to empower everyone. Now, does that mean that I get triggered when someone uses a gender-specific term? No. Does that mean I get upset when someone says something that doesn't fall in line with the exact politically correct ideology that has been forced down my throat as a form of thought and word domination? No, it doesn't. It does mean, though, that I get upset when I read articles like this, which we should be upset about. This article should be the top priority in all of the social justice warriors' minds. Should be top priority. They should be thinking about real stuff. So check this out. Kopila Wosti, I'm not sure the pronunciation, was just 14 when her father married her off to a stranger who was 5 years older. A year later, she gave birth to a baby girl. By the time she was 20, she had 3 children. Okay, at 14 years old, shipped off to a stranger to be married. The first time I became pregnant, she says, I was not even aware I was going to be a mother and did not know how to raise the child. She said, now 34, as she sat cross-legged on the floor of a sheltered home in Nepali capital. Separated from her husband over a decade, Wosti blames the marriage for ruining her life, denying her the chance of going to school and choosing a more suitable partner. So she can't go to school, can't choose her partner. She's forced to marry someone at age 14 and bear children. There are women of my age who are yet to have children, said the petite woman, dressed in a green shirt and trousers with her long black hair tied up in a bun. I could have gone to school and had a better future too, but all that is a dream now, she told Thomson Reuters. Child marriage is illegal in Nepal, yet the impoverished Himalayan nation has failed to put in place policies to curb the practice, with almost 40% of girls married before age 18, obviously told to be married, shipped off and said, marry this person and bear their children, and whatever happens, oh well. It found that poverty, compounded by illiteracy and society's disapproval of unmarried women, compelled many parents to seek out husbands for their daughters. Yet, child marriage often results in a vicious cycle of malnutrition, poor health, and ignorance, since a child bride is more likely to drop out of school and experience problems during pregnancy and childbirth. Her children are more likely to be underweight or die before the age of 5, said the report, based on 100 interviews with children, former child brides, parents, and activists. Now, that is actually sad. That is actually real challenge for that's like real life, okay? That's actually an issue. That's actually very, very disturbing. Think about sending a 14-year-old girl off who has no idea how to raise a child, doesn't know about nutrition. They don't know anything at this point. Shipped off because it's bad for women in society in Nepal not to be married, and it looks bad for the family. It's illegal, but they're doing it anyway, right? Now, yeah, I know that's Nepal. It's not the United States of America. Okay, I get that. But as things a million times worse than this happen in Saudi Arabia, as things a million times worse than this happen in the United States, in neighboring countries, in Mexico, where is the outcry? It's right here. You guys are upset. Everyone listening right now is upset. You guys are sharing it. You're making it trend. It is actually being pushed. But how come there's this little membrane, this little weird membrane of the so-called social justice warriors, which I think is a much too flattering term for people that would rather get upset about gender terminologies than forced child marriage or the horrible mistreatment of women and children in certain countries that we would never be able to discuss. Why is that membrane not allowing this stuff in? Why is it only little self-serving BS? Well, dare I say that many of those people that are such warriors for the cause, it's not about empowering the women or empowering the young girls. It's about getting upset and attacking people. Because, you see, attacking generally doesn't do much. What it does is it just makes you feel better. So when you see those little Twitter wars and, like, people attacking, like, oh, you are a piece of crap, cisgendered, blah, 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 is it really because they want to empower women? Because I want to empower women. I truly do. I want to empower everybody. I want to empower everyone in my life, in a microcosm, in the grand scheme of things. Why do we talk about all this stuff? At least we try, at least we care. That's real empowerment. It's not sitting around screaming and shouting in weird, grunting noises about oppression of the patriarchy cisgendered scum. Not that there's not real oppression, not there's not real sexism, but we should talk about real issues like this, like child sex slavery and the abuse of women not getting triggered on Twitter. We'll be back. More news, final segment. This is the Alex Jones Show, 4th hour. I'm Anthony Gucciardi. Stay tuned. It seems like the most damaging things tend to shut down or kind of muffle our basic instincts and development and just things that we have as a people, as a humanity, right? We've just always intrinsically have figured out through trial and error or development. And this piece from the Japan Times, Japan home to 541,000 young recluses, survey finds. You know, is that a preview of what's to come or what's already happening in the United States or wherever you're listening? I think absolutely yes. It says an estimated 541,000 people aged between 15 and 39 in Japan avoid social contact and shut themselves in their homes, according to a government survey released Wednesday. Now, why are they doing that? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that Japan, in so many ways, is progressed further than the United States in some technological advancements, right? But people are more locked into that tech grid also. And what happens is we lose basic instinct function when we don't develop ourselves at all. So people, kids rather, I guess, but if you're 15 years old and you've only grown up through the only existential kind of communication you've had with another human being is through chat or through texting or through, you know, watching porn or something, your brain is not going to be wired properly. So what happens is people just decide not to go out. People decide not to communicate. It's a self-inflicted mental wound and developmental instinctual wound on ourselves. And that is why, unfortunately, you see some people, it's like you even talk to people and they freak out. You talk to people, they freak out. I mean, hey, I'm guilty myself. Sometimes I'll sit on the computer for so long and I'll like go outside like, oh my God, right? It's getting warped into that system, and you go outside and there are people that unfortunately, guess what? They're on hardcore like medications and stuff, and they just walk around and it's sad to say what they really look like and how they interface. You go up to people on the street and you say, you ask for directions or something, they look at you like you're a crazy person. You are insane if you can talk. I mean, even going to stores now, like I went to check out at some store or whatever, and I just started having a conversation with the guy, and he was just like, what? Like, he was like, it's like 5:23. I'm like, cool, thanks, man. So how you doing today? He's like, I'm good. It's 5:23. Like, yeah, I know that. I know the price. I caught that. You know, I swiped the card and just asking how you're doing. He's like, I'm good. Good. Like, he was really freaked out that I asked how he was doing, because I'm sure that for the last, you know, however many months or years he's worked there, most people just come in and they're just like, come up, and he's like 5:23, and they're like, swipe their card, say nothing, maybe say thank you, grab the bag, leave, and he just does that over and over again for 8 hours every day. So when someone comes and wants to communicate with this person, and I actually want to know, you know, maybe he has something interesting to say. How's your day going? That is craziness. And it's because we've entered the society in which we sit and we observe. We become an observant society of observing people, like reading articles about our favorite celebrities and like just watching YouTube videos of people speaking to us, which is not bad, right? We can learn stuff from these things. But the problem is we're not interacting. There is a screen. There is a shield in between us. There is an artificial system layer in between interaction to where human interaction is now weird, and it's a scary thing. All right, Alex will be back tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Go to InfoWarsStore.com. Support meaningful content. Up to 40% off on storable food, 20% off X2 Survival Shield, nascent iodine. It's going to end soon, so now's the chance. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, and once again, Alex will return tomorrow.